Hello, Dartmouth.
Hi.
COVID times. Uh, well, goodbye, farewell, adieu, hello, and how are all those different greetings? How are you doing? Been thinking a lot about Dartmouth and everything that's been going on in Dartmouth and stuff. We're sorry to hear that the core will be closing after, more than 120 years for sure? Maybe more than 125. I don't know the exact number. But you know, the Corps had a long and very colorful history. And I was thinking about the history and how far back it goes. And I remember speaking to Grace Wimble, I think her name was. And she was talking about how her father ran the old Salvation Army school over in the west end of town. And it got demolished during the Great Explosion in Halifax Harbour. And remember talking to people about the old Corps down on Portland Street and how when the Second World War ended and Liberation Day came and everybody was celebrating, how the revelers destroyed every window on Commercial Street and all the way up Portland Street and left one building unscathed after that. And that was, of course, the Salvation Army, because the young female captain at the time went out and pleaded with them not to do damage to the Corps, and they loved the Army that much that they didn't. And then it continues on to the Pleasant Street Corps and the Pleasant Street location, and all the wonderful things that happened there that we managed to be a part of. Well, our history with the Corps actually started in February of 2003. On Valentine's Day of that year, decision was made to close it down, to shut down all operations. And the following day, Colonel Pritchett met with us, and I was in training college at the time, so he met with me and the then Captain, Mrs., and asked us where we wanted to go. So we told him we wanted to go someplace that was a challenge, preferably a city, and so they said, we have the place for you, and we ended up going there, and so it was a wonderful experience at the same time. A lot of work. We went with the determination to do what God has called us to do, and He blessed our efforts. And if you were around in those days, you would remember how our numbers increased. And even though Family Services wasn't part of our mandate, a year after we arrived, it became. And by the end, it became one of the busiest family services in Atlantic Canada.
It was not just us who worked. Faithful soldiers and friends put their shoulder to the plow, and people were saved and families were helped. There are a number of people that we want to acknowledge, and this is not by any means a complete list, but we want to thank Merv and Janice for their music and song. Not a Christmas has gone by where I haven't wished that Merv was there to sing "O Holy Night." Billy and Joyce for their encouragement. Kenny for his friendship and advice, and the volunteers at the food bank. I can still hear Carl whistling.
Yes, because if Carl was working, Carl was whistling. He's probably still whistling. And if he's there today, he's probably having a good chuckle over that. There were so many. You think of Bob and Connie, and Shirley Pike, and Geneva, and Fred, and
Pat.
Yes, Pat, and so many others who the list just goes on. And we have fond memories of George and Gladdy, and Myrna, and Mrs. Travis. God bless her, such a hard worker. We loved her so much. And these were all great people, and great people to be worshiping with and leading on a weekly and yearly basis for us. It was a wonderful time. There's also a bunch who have gone on, who are now part of that great cloud of witnesses who have gone ahead of us.
We think of Margaret.
Yes.
And Rose.
And Frank. Yeah.
George and Gladdy. Major Taylor, and that's just to name a few of the dear saints that have gone on ahead or waiting for us.
Mm-hmm. You know, we have memories, so many stories that we tell. People get annoyed with us for telling all these wonderful stories about the people of Dartmouth. But we remember, you know, sitting around the table at night and later in the morning, counting money at the kettles. And we actually counted over $1 million while we were there. And that's just one memory of doing the kettle campaign.
And my shoulders still ache when I think about counting all that money.
Yeah. And we think about funny things like Carl and Fred sitting in the congregation during the sermon with their hand up like this, checking their watches discreetly, shall we say, reminding us, oh, you're preaching too long.
And how many times did I threaten to take up the offering again? Not because I was looking for more money, but because I was looking for their watches.
Yeah, indeed.
We also, I think back to when Anne became enrolled as a senior soldier, and that was one of the highlights for me.
It only took, 9 years to get her enrolled?
In only 9
Yeah,
years. It took
but-
her that long to make her up her mind, but
Yeah.
we're glad. And she proved herself before her enrollment and after as a faithful soldier of the Corps. We think of well as Sunday night at church.
Yes. And Gloria and Billy and Janice and Merv would put off these wonderful programs, and it was just so much fun.
And I think of the thank you parties that we held for the volunteers. I still actually found a list of items that I had to purchase and make for the volunteer event. And of course, there was precious moments. That was a thrill for me to watch these young moms grow in their role as mothers. And I still keep in contact with some of them. I think of the one little girl I used to ask her, whose girl are you this morning? Are you the captain's girl or the major's girl? And she'd always say the captain's girl, because he gave her candy.
Yes, they all got candy. Well, as we think back, I remember when we had our, which anniversary was it? 100th, 120th?
Something
I
like
think it was
that.
probably 120th anniversary. At that point, when we arrived in Dartmouth, we were the 98th officer change. So we're fairly confident that that Corps and the people who made it up have had a tremendous experience, influence on the lives of so many officers, young officers, experienced officers. There have been a few commissioners who started their careers in Dartmouth, and there have been so many who have had an opportunity to worship with you and to be shaped by you, as we were. We were prone to making a lot of mistakes, being so inexperienced, and people were so patient, so kind, so supportive, and you're remembered and loved for all of that.
And now, as you leave the Dartmouth Corps, hopefully you'll find your way to one of the new corps that are opening in Halifax, or maybe even to another church. We pray that God will bless you and use you. The Corps is really not closing because the soldiers are going on, and you will continue to work, and God will continue to bless you.
And remember, wherever you go, God goes with you. He will bless you. He will protect you. And you will all stay in our prayers. Even though we don't know who actually is still there, hopefully some of the people who were there when we were there are there right now watching this. God bless you. We love you dearly. And as we have often said, if things were different and we could actually know what the future held, you never would have got us out of Dartmouth. We would still be there. A stick of dynamite might get us out. But it was a lovely experience. We just appreciate all that you brought to ministry. And again, love you dearly.
Love you. God bless you.
Bye.